out with the group last week was good to see. So I'm excited to be here. It's a great opportunity for me and my family, and hopefully I can come in and be a help to this program and move it in a direction where every year they're competing for championships. So that's our goal here. So.
Great. We'll start with questions. Caleb Kaufman, if you want to go first.
Hey, Coach. Coming in, you have a lot of experience working with forward groups and wings especially. When you're looking at this roster and your limited time with them so far as well, what really excites you about those groups coming into this season?
Yeah, I mean, what excites me is that, it's a group of guys that, have experience playing. We played Indiana last year at UConn, and we were concerned about their inside guys, Trace and Joey, and their guards, with Green last year. But, I think it still goes the same for this year, because I think with those guys with a year under Trace's belt and Joey being a veteran, the experience hopefully weighs over for us this year. And those guys, the first week that I was here, it was a voluntary week of guys coming in and lifting and getting extra shots, and all the guys were in here. So that right there tells me it's a good sign for this team. And I'm excited, to work with, whether it's forwards or guards, wherever Archie needs me. That's the group that I'm gonna work with. Right now we're doing, everyone's doing both groups, whether it's wings, guards, and forwards. So everyone's involved.
Alex Bozich.
Hi, Kenya. I just had a general question about this uncertain time right now in college basketball and changing jobs during this time. What was the process like for you to, obviously make a move right now is difficult based on everything that's going on, and how quickly did things move once you learned that Archie had this opening and was interested in bringing you to Bloomington?
Yeah, it happened really quick, and you and I both know normally guys don't change jobs going into August. And, I tell people all the time, it was an opportunity at an inopportune time, but it was an opportunity that I didn't think I could pass up because, of it being Indiana, the history and tradition that they have here, and because of who wanted me to be here with him, Archie Miller, who I've known since he was 15 years old and coached him, with his dad and I when I was in college on the AAU program, and then was able to coach him in college at NC State as well. So it was one of those things that, you say the stars align right. I think it aligned right for this to happen, by Bruiser going to Kentucky, and then, when that happened, Arch, reached out to me, and, it was one of those things after talking with him and, obviously talking to my family, it was one of those things where I prayed about it and I felt like it was the right thing for me to do. And, here I am. So.
Sorry, I'm mute. If anyone else has a question, go ahead and ask it.
Coach Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat Radio here in Bloomington. Moving from UConn, a program that is obviously a very well-known program, but to Indiana, one that is obviously it's Indiana. Why now for you, not following up on that question of the pandemic time, but just Indiana in general? Why now? Why Indiana, and why now for you? You've been to the Midwest, you've been back to the East, and now you're coming back.
Like I said, it's the opportunity that presents itself. It is Indiana, the history and tradition, like I said, is rich. It's like, UConn has the same basketball history. So it wasn't like, it wasn't a thing where I'm coming to Indiana and I'm going to a place where basketball-wise, it's not the rich tradition and history of winning. And so, again, most of the reason why I'm here is because of the relationship piece. I'm big on relationships, especially when I recruit. That's big. And Arch and I and his family have, known each other for a very long time. So that was my reasoning, for this time right now. Like, there's not too many jobs that you're right at this time. I would get up and pack up and move myself and my family. But because of the situation, like I said, because of it being a person that, I've known for a very long time and I trust in, I believe in as a coach. And so that was the reason, for this opportunity and me coming to Indiana at this point.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Zach Osterman?
Coach Zach Oster from the Star. Thanks for the time. You talk a lot about that relationship. Just how has it developed, and maybe how you've seen Coach Miller grow into this side of the job? You knew him as a player before you knew him as a coach. Just in the last kind of 20 years, how has that relationship developed, especially as he's gotten into coaching? And I think I speak for everyone else too when I say if there's any Archie Miller AAU stories you'd like to share, we'd all be happy to hear them.
Well, I can't tell the one story that I would embarrass Archie from his dad, but I would go for me. The thing that I was most impressed about is we had a recruit, and we did a Zoom call with a recruit yesterday, and I was very impressed. People keep telling me, the staff, Arch is very impressive on the Zoom calls, and when we get recruits to campus, he wins the recruits over, and I saw that firsthand. It was like, very attention to detail about the program, very thorough and going over why it's the best situation for the recruit. And it just opened my eyes to how much he's grown from, the player that I remember. Obviously I worked for his brother, and it's kind of like a splitting image, but Arch has a way about himself. He's very confident in, knowing the game and teaching the game. And, I was very impressed yesterday of just how he was able to go through the program from A to Z and really do a great job doing that.
Okay, Mike Pegram.
Well, to follow up a little bit on what Zach was talking about, Coach, what are some of the unique things about how Archie coaches that kind of stand away from maybe some of the coaches you've worked for in the past?
Well, I think he's similar to Coach Early a little bit. He's a player's coach. He played at the highest level. So just the understanding of the game. And then he's, from watching him in skill development last week, he's still out on the floor, demonstrating, going through different things, teaching the guys. And I think that's, we call that sweat equity when you see your head coach out there on the floor, getting in the mix and coaching it up. I think it shows a level of respect because he has played at the highest level. And I think, it's similar, like me watching Arch do that, and I'm a guy that likes to get on the court as well and do the skill development kind of stuff. So we kind of cut from the same cloth when it comes to that.
Okay, Alec Lashley.
Hey, Coach. How are you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. So obviously this summer has been, entirely different from the other summers that you've been coaching. If you can just talk a little bit about, how that plays into recruiting with no real, live events to actually go see in person, and kind of how that affects your recruiting, and if you've had to change kind of your game plan when evaluating prospects.
Yeah, I think that's when relationships comes into great value. People that you trust, that when you call, because you're not able to be in front of the recruits and see them firsthand, I think you got to depend a lot on the relationships you built over the years of trusting their evaluation to give you the right feedback that you need to recruit the kid. I think, one of the reasons, UConn, Coach Early has done a great job of his recruiting class. We finished, the 21 recruiting class at the beginning of August with, 3 big-time recruits. One of the kids, Jordan Hawkins, who I recruited and got to UConn. And I think it aligned right because, just it's different because of the Zoom calls and you trying to present the university to them. I thought we did a really good job of making sure the relationship part of them seeing the university without actually being there, from just the virtual tours of campus, from dorm rooms to our practices, how our workouts are. So we brought all of that to the table and showing the recruits, and that's put us in a position to be able to get some of those guys early. And they're doing the same thing here. I mean, me getting here and seeing the needs of the team and program, especially in the 22 class now, starting to offer some of those guys who I think will fit into what the culture and what Arch is trying to build here.
Okay, Mike Schumann.
Yeah, hi, Coach. Mike Schumann with the Daily Hoosier here. You spent a long time in the Big Ten at Nebraska, and I was just wondering how valuable you think that time will be when it comes to game planning and conference play.
I think it's huge, man. Just the coaching styles of, being here for 5 years with Coach Miles, and he gave me a great opportunity as far as with the scouting and getting to know and have a feel for the league. It's important. And I think that's just going to help with the continuity coming here with this staff as well. And so it's not my first rodeo coming into this league. It's a higher respect of coaches in this league. So just the game planning, I know that you got to be really locked into, each scout. And so I know how important that is. But me having that experience being in this league for 5 years is definitely going to help.
Okay, Jeff Rabjohns, and then send me any requests for questions after Jeff.
Hey, good morning, Kenya. How you doing?
Jeff, how you doing, man?
Good, good. Hey, so I was kind of working on a story about, like, when you look at players, what are the kind of guys you look for? What are physical attributes you like? What are skills you prioritize? What are things you look for, competitive makeup? Just kind of what would be sort of the Cliff Notes version of, okay, these are the kind of guys Kenya Hunter really likes?
Well, first off, they got to be talented. That's the first thing I look for. What unique talent do they have, or skill set? But it's deeper for me because now that I've been in this basketball game coaching for over 20-something years, I think the biggest thing is developing good people, finding good people that are talented. There are a lot of them out there. It's our job to find the right pieces and bring them to the table. So that's why I say the relationship piece is very important for me. It's because, I really truly believe at the end of the day, if you're going to get the most out of the individual prospect, they have to have your trust, and you got to trust that they're going to do what they need to do as well once they get on campus. So building that relationship, obviously at this point in time, you're not able to see those kids. So my evaluation of being in front of them, how they deal with their teammates as well as their coaches, are they coachable? So those are the things, if I was evaluating a kid, that I would be looking for if I was in front of them.
And just to kind of follow up on that, are there positions that you prioritize over the others, or is it, hey, what do we need moving forward? We're going to go get whatever the pieces that we need are.
Yeah, I think it's definitely what do we need in our program, and then you got to look at overall talent. Like since I got into coaching, Herb Sendek, Archie would say this. You at least need 3 potential pros on your team to make a run in the tournament and go deep. So I'm looking at the roster as like, can we get 3 potential guys that we feel like in the near future can develop in the pros? Because if you have that on your team, you got a great chance of making a run in the tournament and getting to the end goal, and that's to win the championship.
Gotcha. Thanks, man.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brew, you got anything?
Yes.
How you doing, Tom?
Yep. Hey, Coach. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
See you in person one of these days, hopefully. Yeah, you've been around college basketball for a long time, and so I was just curious, when you don't get a chance to speak with outsiders too much, Can you give us your perception of and how much you've paid attention to what's gone on in Indiana, both sort of recently and through the years, and what you'd like to add to that now going forward?
Well, for me, coaching against, when I first got to Nebraska, coaching against Tom Crean, and his teams, and then moving, to the later years of me being in Nebraska to when Arch first took over, they've always had talent, and I was at Georgetown when they were ranked, I think, 1 or 2 in the league with Victor. Will Sheehy, I think, was on the team. They had JD and I talked about it.
Yeah.
They had,
Cody at the Barclays.
Yeah, at the Barclays. I remember that. It went into overtime, I think, right? So just, just a level of talent that they were able to get, and just, how well coached they were. And I knew, obviously with Arch, I follow him, I follow his brother, people that I have relationships. So I've always, looked at Indiana because of Arch being here as a good place. I was friends with Bruiser Flint in the business. Obviously, me knowing Bill Colmar, I recruited Brian Walsh to Xavier before I left to go to Georgetown. So, I still communicated with the guys on the staff here from time to time. So, just, Indiana, you go back to, Isaiah times when he was here, and just knowing just the history and what they've done here. And then, like I said, being in Nebraska and coming to Assembly Hall and seeing the crowds. Now, it wasn't probably the crowd that it normally is for the Nebraska at that point, but, just the history of coming into this building, what it means,
Anybody else with questions? Okay, Coach, I want to ask you. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I have a quick question when you...
Yes, Coach.
Okay, so Lexi Benetti with iUS TV Sports. Thanks for taking the time to do this today. My question is, what do you look forward to bringing to this coaching staff and program moving forward?
Basically a seamless transition. Like, I want to be able to add value and especially with recruiting. I mean, don't get it twisted. Arch, I'm here to recruit, but I think I can bring value on the basketball part of it as well. That's one thing that Arch and I talked about, going back to the question we had earlier about just being on the court and developing kids. I think he feels confident in me that, I can go out there and skill development and really help a kid get better. And so I think I can bring a lot of value for on the court, and then the game planning and scouting. Again, I've done this for a long time. Not to say that I'm great at it, but I think I do a very good job of game planning. That's why, Bill and I are working with most of the defensive schemes, going into the season. So, I just feel like I can come and be a person that, however it was running before and they've had success, I want to be able to add to that. And then the recruiting part of it, I got to do my job of bringing talented kids to the university. So,
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else for anybody?
I got one more real quick, JD, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Coach, since Archie's got here, he's really pushed hard this whole sort of inside-out recruiting model and making sure of getting the best kids in Indiana and such and working from there.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience in and around the state of Indiana and what sort of relationships you have developed with some of the high school coaches here in the state of Indiana?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been on this side of the Midwest, and so I think that's one thing that I'm excited about. I think they do have a very good grasp of the state, from him and Tom Ostrom and Bruiser being here and Mike Roberts being a former player, knowing the state very well. I think where I can bring value, I think when Indiana was 1 or 2, when I was coaching with Victor, and I've said this before, they've had the best players in the state of Indiana and the Midwest, mixed with a couple East Coast kids, and then, if I can bring one or two guys to the table like that, and help, Tom and Arch with the Midwest, I have contacts in, Chicago and trying to rebuild those connections as well. But I remember, recruiting when I was at Xavier coming to Indianapolis, Stanley Burrell, Justin Cage, the guys that I recruited, to Xavier at the time, and I've had relationships. Most of those coaches have gone on to being college coaches. So it's new relationships that I will have to build here in the state, but I'm looking forward to doing that. And, it's again, I think they have a really good hold on what's going on here in the state of Indiana, the best kids that are coming, in the younger class. So, hopefully, I can get a feel for it, but also bring, some of these guys from, different areas to Indiana.
Thank you, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, JD, can I have one more?
Yeah.
Hey, can you as far as position work, are you going to be working guards, forwards, bigs? Where are you going to be focused on that?
To be quite honest, we haven't gotten into depth with that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so like I said, right now, we have our player groups that we in charge of. So I got a couple guards and a big in my player group. But as far as the skill development, like we all are on the court, coaching the guards and the forwards and bigs, So we're all out there, we're all in the mix, and so right now, Arch hasn't specifically said exactly which group that I'm working with.
Gotcha.
More of your player in your player groups, to be quite honest, and building those relationships as well.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Kenya, I wanted to ask you one thing, and that is all of us on this side of the fence in collegiate athletics are now reevaluating things after going through what we've been through in the pandemic, and maybe we found something that we can replace what we did before all this hit with what we're doing now. And I was curious, just in recruiting, I know you guys get beat down being on the road and doing things like that. Have you guys found anything, or do you think there's anything that you might take from right now moving forward and maybe replace what you may have done in the past?
Yes, without a doubt. I think the Zoom calls, and presenting to especially the younger kids. Like I think the rising seniors, the 21 class, I think you have to be in front of those kids. But for the juniors that we're able to recruit and be able to show them things as far as your campus, a workout, from a practice to skill development. Like if you're able to show those guys early, they kind of get a feel for it, and it's actually been good in that regard. So I think we should definitely continue that moving forward. Of the younger classes, making sure that we get in front of them and they kind of get a feel for what your program has to offer. So yes, moving forward, I think the Zoom calls for the younger class would be great. But again, for the guys that are in the senior class, I think it's more being in front of them and getting a feel for them and their family. So, but I think for the younger classes, yes, JD.
Great. Anything else from anybody? Well, Kenya, thank you so much for taking the time out. I know you got a lot of things going on with the move.